This is Matt Cuso, and you are listening to The Flagship. Today we are joined by Paul McCann. Paul is currently the Vice President of Industrial Project Development at the Bolt Company. He's a lifetime member of the Wisconsin Alumni Association, a board member of the Alumni Association from 2011 to 2015, a current member of the UW Athletic Board, and a member of the College of Engineering Industrial Advisory Board. And last but not least, Paul is also a proud member of the Badgers United Board of Directors. Thanks for joining us today, Paul.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Paul, tell me about your connection to UW-Madison and why you feel so strongly about the university.
Well, I'm a 1981 graduate from the Department of Engineering, mechanical engineer, and I came back to work in the state, my hometown of Appleton, Wisconsin. So I've always had a connection to Wisconsin, and I've always loved the university. It's just, such a beautiful place to go to school, to learn. And I have 3 daughters who are all Badger graduates. So that makes it a kind of a multi-generational connection for us. And, just every time I'm in town, in Madison, on campus, I just have a different sense of pride and a different feeling of, being home. Appleton's been home forever, but I also just feel that same sense when I'm on campus and I'm around people at the university.
Do you see a lot of UW-Madison graduates in your professional life?
I do. I see a lot of engineers. I see a lot of people who've come through the technical programs, but, through the course of my career, I was in the paper industry for about 30 years. And, there were lots of accountants and administrative folks and other technical folks who were UW-Madison graduates. We don't necessarily wear it on our shirt sleeve. So, you have to sometimes dig it out of people, but more often than not, you get to a Friday before a big football game or a Badger game day and people will be wearing the colors. And so you can kind of pick them out of a crowd. But yeah, I've seen a lot and I've recruited on campus too. And I've been very proud of the people that we recruited from campus and brought up to the Fox cities to work in their professions, whether they be, accountants or engineers or other disciplines.
So Paul, you're a graduate. You have 3 children who are all graduates of UW-Madison, and you're hiring people from UW-Madison. Just reflect for a minute on the value of a degree from the Flagship in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Matt, I think the value of a UW-Madison degree is, primarily that it's recognized worldwide. You don't have to go too far, locally to have people accept that you went to one of the best universities in the world. But when you travel around the country and you do business in various parts of the U.S. or even with international clients, they recognize the UW and you have instant credibility. They know that you went to a rigorous college environment and, you have good problem solving skills and, you're just automatically accepted as a credible person.
So universities across the country right now are facing unparalleled challenges, both in returning students to the campus and to just financially making ends meet. Talk a little bit about what obstacles UW-Madison is facing to maintain that world-class reputation that's so important to alumni.
Well, I think the budget pressures are incredible. There were pressures on the budget prior to COVID, and now with what impacts are going to occur with the state budget and with other high priority needs for the spending that's available, the university is going to get even more pressure. And, that combined with the fact that the health and safety of the students and faculty coming back to campus is going to be paramount. And there's going to be some additional spending, spending that you're not going to get any economic or educational benefit from, but you're going to have to invest so that you can keep people safe and healthy.
So what changes do you think the legislature needs to consider in order to help UW-Madison and the other schools get through the next year or two?
Well, yeah, I think there's still some waste in the system. It's been recognized in the past, some of the ways things are purchased, some of the ways construction is done in the state system. And, I think some of that autonomy that we've talked about in the past for the individual campuses would help campuses make good decisions and better economic decisions and maybe take some of the waste out of the process.
So President Thompson is actually asking for a line of credit for UW's system. It would be the first time in Wisconsin history that the universities were afforded a line of credit. Is it essential to get through the next few years?
Well, I think so. Just based on that, competition for available funds, I don't know that when you take the pie and you cut it up, there's going to be enough. So if that opportunity to use a line of credit and to borrow ahead a little bit to take care of the spending pressures of today, I think that is important. I think that would be valuable.
So as a member of the Wisconsin Alumni Association, what do you think the impact of the national economy is going to be on the Alumni Association's ability to raise gifts and grants?
I think there's a few things that have happened, right? The tax law changes recently have impacted that because fewer and fewer people are able to take their charitable contributions and deduct them. I know that's impacted how many people give. This is just one more step away from people having disposable income that they can put to charitable causes. I think any 501c3 around the country is feeling the pain.
Do you think UW-Madison's research endeavors are going to see this pressure when it comes to the level of grants that are being awarded?
Absolutely. I think it'll come in public sector grants. Some of the National Institutes of Health, I think there's going to be a fairly positive trend there where people are going to try to pump money into research universities like the UW and into the medical fields. But some of the other
privates.
Yeah, the privates are really going to get stung. I think that any big organization, the automotive companies that give to the UW engineering department for engine research, they're all, in my opinion, likely to be having to pull back on some of that grant funding and, fund their general expenses for a while until they get back on board with revenue.
Paul, as you travel the state of Wisconsin, why should Wisconsinites who may not have gone to the university or had a relative that attended UW-Madison, why should they care about it and support additional public funding for the flagship university?
Well, there's a number of things. I think it is a source of great pride, whether you went to school there or not. And most people that you run into are Badger fans, right? And that whole side of what goes on at the university is what a lot of people focus on. It's probably most of what they know about the University of Wisconsin at Madison. But what they need to understand, or what people need to be made more aware of, is the $15 billion economic impact. You can't even itemize for people where that impact takes place and how it touches them. But in every citizen of Wisconsin's case, there's something that happens at the University of Wisconsin-Madison that touches them, whether it's on the healthcare field, the nursing graduates, the engineering graduates, the liberal arts graduates who go on, the teachers that come out of Madison. We need to care for the products that come out of the university in addition to the research that takes place, because it is sort of the mechanism that helps keep the best and the brightest in the state. The top kids in each class and each high school in the state have opportunities to go to the Ivy Leagues or to other Big Ten campuses or to the boundaries of the world for their education. And the fact that we have a high quality university right here in Madison is what keeps those kids in state. It keeps them, right after they graduate, within the first year of graduation, 55% of the graduates stay in the state to further their careers and to build families and economies of their own. There's a lot of reasons that Wisconsinites should care, but watching high school kids turn into college graduates, turn into business leaders and teachers and nurses and contributing members to our society is why you should pay close attention.
Is it safe to say that UW-Madison is a very important part of Wisconsin's economic recovery?
Absolutely. It's a very important part of finding a virus and figuring out what the mechanisms of the virus are. It's important for us to find a vaccine. It's important for us to, talk about the economic recovery and the tools that we're going to need to build back the economy from its depleted state. there are a lot of minds and ideas and resources at UW-Madison that are going to be critical for pulling us out of this.
Paul, you're a proud member of the Badgers United Board of Directors. Tell me, why is it important to have a third-party voice for UW-Madison during these difficult political times?
Well, I've been engaged with Badgers United from the beginning. There was a group of folks that were associated with the Alumni Association that were asked to start more direct advocacy for the university with the legislature. And so, joining Badgers United or helping build Badgers United was a natural progression from that. We came about this at the time when, the chancellor had a voice and the chancellor was trying to get some changes made. And those opinions or those ideas kind of met deaf ears in the legislature. And that was a problem. I mean, that was a problem because people expected the chancellor to have, a strong opinion advocating for the university, and the legislature had a political bias and what was an expected reaction to those requests. So we thought that another voice, the voice of the populace, the voice of the alumni, the voice of other people who believe the University of Wisconsin-Madison is important, needed to be heard. And, with most of these voices also come votes. And so when you combined, the voices that the legislators were hearing from and the potential votes that they were risking by not considering the strength of the university and the value of the university, it becomes a powerful force.
Paul, when you interact with other alumni around the state and the country, what's the message you leave with them?
When I stand up in front of a group of people and I'm talking about Badgers United, I try to make sure that they understand that by joining Badgers United, their voice gets combined with thousands of other voices, and there's some power in that, and it's valuable. If anybody in the audience happens to be, from outside the state of Wisconsin, and they ask me, what can I do to make the biggest impact? I encourage them to donate to the PAC, because donations to the PAC help us build an economic engine that can influence people in the state legislature.
Connect the dots for us, Paul. What do we need the legislature to do to help UW-Madison?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting proposition. I've always been fascinated by when you come from a business perspective and you think, okay, your major shareholder should be able to, tell you what to do with your budget and how to spend your money. And here you have state support. When I was in school, back in 79, 80, 81, state support was 40% of the UW budget. It's now, somewhere around 14%. And it's really odd for a 14% shareholder to have as much influence on how you spend your money as what the legislature has on how the UW spends its money. And there are biases within the legislature, and there's, the politics that takes place up on Capitol Hill there in Madison every day does end up affecting how much is allocated to the University of Wisconsin. There's a lot of people there who, and I heard this on the news the other night, was even on a business channel, talking about how the universities in the country are, leftist oriented, and they're teaching all kinds of socialist ways and all that. And I sit there and I think about the medical school, and I think about the nursing program, and I think about the teaching programs and the veterinary school and the engineering school. And I'm thinking, boy, it's really sad.
Not leftist socialist college.
No, it's really sad that we all get painted with, of course, there are opinions on campus that are trying to get people to think openly and to think about the entire spectrum of philosophies of how to live life and how governments should manage the money. But I've never seen on the UW campus that level of influence, where they're trying to push kids the way the media now tries to portray them.
Sure. There's a lot more balance than
well, there has to be. There's 45,000 people there. There's just as many clubs for conservative type ideas as there are for liberal ideas.
What do you think campus can do to combat that myth?
Well, I think it's a matter of education and getting the information out to the far reaches of the state. I've always said, physicists and engineers learn about the inverse square law, and it's basically that noise diminishes with the square of the distance. Well, I think that's incredibly true with the good news that's generated on the UW-Madison campus. The further you get away from Madison, the less of that you hear. We're in the Green Bay television market up here, and they try to do a good job of covering all the different things that happen, but it's not the top item on the editorial policy here. And so some means, and I think Badgers United does a great job of sharing information that comes out of campus, but some additional ways to get the information out. What's happening in the music department? What's happening in the education department? What's going on in the people who are getting chemistry degrees, and what are they going on to do? That information needs to get out to people so that they see that they're not, people that are causing difficulties in the world.
So, Paul, you're also a member of the College of Engineering Industrial Advisory Board.
I am.
The School of Engineering has a multi-phase capital project planned over the next couple of years. Tell me a little bit about the project and why that's important to the state of Wisconsin.
Well, it's really exciting. The engineering buildings that I went to school in 40 years ago are still the ones being used today. Many of them have been remodeled and a significant amount of money has been put into them, but there are labs within the mechanical engineering building that have not changed since. And some of the equipment hasn't changed since. And so, it's difficult to recruit engineering students into that environment. It's important because engineering has changed, right? It's become a 3D engineering world, and there's all of the different technologies that are out in the industry today that can't be taught with the systems that we have in the buildings we have. So there's a couple of phases of construction. I understand it's one of the highest priorities in the budget for the coming years. And it's going to be tucked in right across from Union South. A lot of people that will be going to Badger football games will be seeing the construction for a few years. It's a critical expansion of the engineering campus capabilities. And Dean Robertson and the rest of his team have really done a great job pulling this thing together and showing how important it is.
There's such a strong need in Wisconsin for more engineers. Will this increase the number of graduates?
It will, yes. It takes them up to a capacity of about 5,000 students, and we'll graduate more engineers from Wisconsin. And it also takes pressure off of some of the other schools in the system that are, they're looking at engineering degrees at different campuses, and it's very difficult to start an engineering program and to build an engineering program from zero. It's much more economical and probably better for the student graduates to be in an environment where there's world-class faculty, some of the top student competition, the people that you're rubbing elbows with every day are going to be the best and the brightest. And it just creates a tremendous environment. And then, people will come and recruit. The biggest companies in the country and in the world come to Madison to recruit our engineers. And it also attracts international students. So kids from around the world that are, brilliant and are going to do great things in their own country come here to learn the tools that they need to be good engineers.
The basis of the Wisconsin idea is for UW-Madison to reach into every corner of the state of Wisconsin. As a resident of Appleton in the Fox Valley, do you feel the Wisconsin idea up by you?
It's interesting. We do. And I work with a couple of different groups up here where I probably will give you some examples. But the Wisconsin idea to me is the process where the UW makes the most impact. It is the process where, top talented kids from graduating classes, as we were talking about earlier, they end up running small businesses all over the state. They end up going back home, going to an area of the state where they've always wanted to live, and they start their own business. And they take the things that they've learned on the UW campus, and they invent things, and they just make a huge impact. But also, the research that takes place on campus, you'll see it impact other parts of the state. One in particular that I'm most proud of, I work with a group up in Appleton that started a community early learning center for young kids, pre-K kids, to try to help catch kids who might be at a disadvantage in their ability to learn or the environment that they're in. And one of the things that we've incorporated in that community early learning center is some of Richie Davidson's work. Richie Davidson does the mindfulness and the kindness type work on campus, and he's world renowned. The guy hangs around with the Dalai Lama. He's just a terrific ambassador for the university and for his programs. But we have taken those programs that Richie has developed, and we use them in Appleton to teach 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds how to be kind to each other. And it's really interesting the impact that has. It's a family-changing curriculum, because when the kids come home and they've learned how to be kind to each other, and they see something in the family where, they see something that conflicts with that, they put their tools to work at home. And it's really just a great extension of the university and a fun program to have in your backyard.
Fascinating. Just one example of how UW-Madison's #1 rated school of education is reaching into the community.
It is. And it's well received here. And I hope it's a program that continues for a long time. I'd like to sit in. I'm sure I need a little bit more mindfulness and kindness in my psyche as well.
We all do. I was thinking I should sign up as well. Well, Paul, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your insight, and you're a proud alumni. We need more of them all around the country. This is Matt Cuso, and you have been listening to The Flagship.